President Obama and the congressional leaders just failed to make a deal to end this shutdown. So let's try two other members of Congress. Joining us now are House members Peter Welch, he's the Chief Deputy Whip of the Democratic Caucus, and Financial Services Committee Chair Jeb Hensarling, Republican from Texas. Gentlemen, let's try this. I want to make a deal right here and now. I want to make a deal to solve the shutdown and the continuing resolution. Chairman Hensarling, I'd like you to begin. What is on the table in your mind?
Well, one, I think with a little time, Peter and I could actually be the ones to do it. Here's what House Republicans are fighting for. You know, my mother-in-law has said the least you can do is show up. So we at least want the president, we want Senate Democrats to show up. We put one offer, two offer, three offer, four offers on the table, and they continue to say we refuse to negotiate. Listen, we don't like Obamacare. We understand, obviously, the president does. The rollout has been anything less than stellar, a program they worked on for 3 years. But here's the deal. We wanted it delayed. We wanted it defunded. That's not going to happen as long as he's president. I get that. But can't we at least ensure that it's equally applied to all Americans? And so the last offer we put on the table, Larry, was simply this. You know what? If your boss gets a one-year break from Obamacare, you ought to get a one-year break. And members of Congress should not be treated better than working Americans who pay their salaries. It's that simple. That has been rejected. But what this is really about, Larry, is that, you know, we're still in the slowest, most tepid, weakest recovery of the modern era. Tens of millions of Americans are underemployed, unemployed. And so what we want to do is sit down with Democrats and say, what is it? Where can we find common ground to improve the economy? And by the way, the nation's going bankrupt.
Right. All right.
You know, everybody says do it tomorrow. So we want to work on it today.
All right. So Peter Welch, what is on the table here? I'm just going to try to just summarize this. Is the Vitter amendment, essentially, that says Congress and their staffs and the executive branch, for that matter, should not be exempt from Obamacare. That's one thing. The table. Peter Welch, what would you put on the table?
Well, that's the reason that we're shutting the whole government down. I mean, that's the point. That's just a political gambit, trying to make a political talking point. This is a question, first and foremost, about the constitutional process. Are we going to vote on the budget? And the budget that we're proposing to vote on is the one that was designed by the Republicans. It's their number, 988. It was passed by the Senate, bipartisan vote. We're just simply asking that be put on the floor, and it would pass in the House. We would turn the lights back on, and then some of these issues that are still very divisive between us but have to be resolved, Jeb's right about that, we could negotiate that in the regular order. You know, the irony here is that when John Boehner became Speaker, he made a commitment that he wanted to return to regular order. A lot of us on my side said, you know what, that's great. But it's broken down. We've got to be going through the committee process, and the breakdown now means that sides that want to get their point use as leverage, shutting government down or stiffing creditors on our bills, and that's really a bad...
So, Peter Welch, basically, you're saying you would keep the spending caps. Basically, that would be part of your solution. All right, Jeb Hensarling, we got spending caps on the table. I think Mr. Welch makes a good point. That's basically correct. We've also got the Vitter amendment on the table where Congress and the executive branch should not be from Obamacare. Give me one more, Mr. Hensarling, that would solve this problem because we make a deal tonight to fix it.
Well, I wish we could, Larry, but, you know, Peter was talking about the constitutional process. I think that's very important. Listen, the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse. I know the president has read the Constitution and believes it says the power of the rubber stamp. Listen, I understand the Democrats have the White House. I understand they have the Senate. But Republicans have the House. And we're not going to rubber stamp what the president wants to do. And all we've heard again is my way or the highway. There are lots of things that we would be willing and want to have on the table. Listen, I'm a veteran of Simpson-Bowles, the less than super committee, where the president has paid lip service to doing something but hasn't done something. And again, I don't understand if Obamacare is good enough for the American people, why isn't it good enough for Washington elites? Why isn't it good enough for the president, the vice president, the cabinet, the White House, members of Congress? It's a basic question of fairness.
Chairman Hensarling asks a pointed question. We don't have too much time, but Peter, what's your response to that?
Well, we're subject to the same rules as everybody else in Congress. Those of us who are here we're required by law to be in the exchanges. We are not on the same health care as we were before. We have to go in the exchanges. And there's an employer-based contribution that federal employees, including members of Congress and their staff, get. So you can argue about Obamacare. That's a much more meritorious argument than picking and choosing. And even Senator Grassley, who was the author of this, said his goal was to have us be in the exchanges like everybody else, not to deny employer-based contributions that everybody else who has the benefit of employer.
But that was changed. That was changed by the stroke of a pen coming out of the White House, Peter.
That's right. That's right.
And you get huge. You're still eligible.
No,
you're still
Larry,
eligible for huge subsidies. That I think is troublesome.
It's not huge subsidies. It's employer-sponsored subsidies. But this is not about the members of Congress. It's about health care for all Americans.
All right.
And it's also, now hold it, it's also about how do you change a law or how do you pass a law. And you have to get the votes in the House. You've got to get them in the Senate. You've got to get it by the president. And keep in mind, we had a presidential election where this was contested, $1 billion on each side. It was validated by the American people. The Supreme Court upheld this and did pass in Congress.
Right.
And we're still having the fight.
The debate goes on. The debate goes on. Many thanks. I appreciate it, Representative Peter Welch and Chairman Jeb Hensarling. We're going to be back.